Peace and respect to you all. Welcome to Demolish Doctrine, the beginning of the end of religions and the acceptance of truth. And tonight's guest, Light and Fire and or Uri. Uri,
Hey, what's
the
going on,
floor is
Richard?
yours.
Yay! Welcome back to the YouTube Radio Network, ladies and gentlemen. We're gonna do some thinking over here, hopefully, and have
I
a
like thinking.
conversation. Yeah,
Sure.
it takes practice. It's work. It's hard work. It's never easy. Whoever says thinking is easy never really thought about anything.
Peace and respect, Peter W. Welcome.
Whoever Hey, says Peter. Thinking is easy never really thought about anything.
Peter, you have YouTube playing in the background. Would you kill that? Hit that white X at the top of your screen on the YouTube tab. Thank you. Peace and respect to this one guy, and Krishna, and of course, as always, Mac the Human.
Peace and respect, Richard.
Thank you. You know, I really do mean that. But I think part of having peace is accepting truths. And people who don't have acceptance of truths have failures, and they get at least frustrated. Peace and respect, 420, Sammy. So Light and Fire was going to read from an anonymous script.
Anonymous source, yeah. This is. I want to know. Maybe Peter can tell me where this is from. Maybe he knows. Hear, O man, how by practicing seeking God, having the mind absorbed in me and taking refuge in me, you can know me completely beyond any doubt. I shall declare to you in full this knowledge, combined with practical realization, which being known, nothing more remains to be known here. Among thousands of men, perhaps one strives for perfection, and among those who diligently strive for perfection, perhaps one knows me in essence.
I think you should stop right there. What do you think, Pete?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure what that's from.
Does it sound familiar to you? I mean, could you tell me parts of the Bible that give us those same ideas?
Well, it sounded when he first started reading it sounded a little bit like Job, but I don't know exactly where it's from.
Also sounds a good bit like Psalms. Also sounds a good bit like Book of Wisdom. Peace and respect, Cryptomeria. Also sounds a bit like Proverbs. Also sounds like Christ.
Well, I don't know. That one and what was that thing about 1 in 1,000? Know me?
Yeah, maybe 1 in 1,000, or
among,
maybe 1,000.
Among thousands of men, perhaps one strives for perfection. And among those who diligently strive for perfection, perhaps one knows me in essence.
Peace and respect, Hillary's emails.
Yeah, I don't know.
Let's look at the word essence. I think it comes up in the Bible many, many times.
Where is this from?
Well, it's a secret.
Oh,
that's part of the fun.
Okay.
It kind of makes them point.
It doesn't. It does. I don't recognize it. So if it's from somewhere in the Bible,
recognize the ideas?
I'm going to read it. I'm going to read it again. Among thousands of men, perhaps one strives for perfection, and among those who diligently strive for perfection, perhaps one knows me in essence. Now, I'm going to focus on the word essence because I know that word comes up in the Bible many times. It's all about his. It's about his essence. I mean, there's a lot of there. That word goes on throughout the Bible. You gotta basically.
But see, I see a problem with this. Why would he be saying perhaps? Perhaps
it's just
one knows me in essence. Maybe
one
knows. Perhaps
God knows these things.
But it's not that kind of perhaps, man.
He's not saying what God knows. He's saying perhaps who knows God. I mean, that's what he's saying.
Oh,
among thousands of men.
God doesn't know.
Yeah, he's saying who knows me in essence. Who's really searching God out. How many people are really like taking their time to find out His essence?
Hey, Richard, did you see Doctor Strangelove?
I've heard those words in that order before.
Okay.
I don't know what it means though.
It's a movie.
I remember that it was some kind of pop culture movie. Yeah.
There was a general, Air Force general who sent his bombers to bomb Russia. And part of
Uh-huh.
his problem was he believed America was losing their purity of essence through things like fluoridation of the water.
Uh-huh. I'm just not familiar. I'm sorry.
Should I give him a couple more verses? I don't
Well, you
think they're
said you were
ready
going to
yet.
talk about the word essence right there.
Yeah, essence. Yeah, I gotta go get my laptop, man. Like, I wish somebody had the. You do have the Bible, like the app for the Bible, where you can just Google essence and see how many times it comes up and tell me which.
Indeed, I do.
Because I'm all in the books right now. I gotta go get my laptop.
How do you spell that? I am horrible at spelling.
Essence. That's ESSENCE. Essence.
C-E. Okay, got it. All right. So, in the King James, under that spelling, 0 times.
Yeah, I got
Which means
zero. I got zero in the ESV
let
too.
me try S-E instead of C-E. Nope,
It's
that's
it's
not it.
CE.
It's C-E. Let me try one S.
No, it's two S's.
Okay, under all possible spellings, 0 times in the KJV.
Not even once.
Not even once. Let me try the NIV. Or, let me try NLT. Let's see what happens there. 5 times in 5 verses in the NLT.
Okay, we're getting closer.
And the original word, which got translated to essence, where is it? The very essence. Why did it bring up the wrong thing? It keeps bringing up the wrong verse. Weird. I don't know what to do about that. I got a glitch in the program.
No, there's always a glitch going on.
I'll be darned. It will not bring it up. I've got the word essence in front of me in this translation. It will not bring it up. Let's see. Psalm 119. Psalm 119, verse 160. I'll bring it up in the KJV and see if that works. It's the third word. Oh, it's the word truth.
Truth.
Specifically, it got translated in the King James to truth. And in the Hebrew, contracted from primitive root, to build up or support, to foster as a parent or a nurse. Figuratively, to render, to be firm or faithful, to trust. And then the derivative word, trustworthy things like stability, certainty, truth, trustworthiness. Yeah. Establishment, faithful. So there you go. Essence. Stability, certainty, truth, and trustworthiness. Essentially.
What about the word fragrance?
The word what?
Fragrance.
Fragrance.
Yeah, does that come up in the KJV?
Hold on. That particular word 0 times in the KJV. If it's spelled Fragrance. If it's spelled that way, it's not there.
Interesting.
9 times in the NLT, and it's the word. Come on, you. Name purified, therefore maiden. Why is it bringing up the wrong verses? Oh, there it is. Okay. In the Hebrew, ra'ak, rooted in ruach, to blow, to breathe, or to smell. So the force of breath, inhaling or exhaling. Very close to ruach, which means the breath, even breathing hard. A savor, a scent, or a smell, a fragrance. So it's the idea of exhaling or inhaling, and if you inhale, smelling something. Good enough?
Oh yeah, that's pretty in depth for sure.
Okay. Oh, that's what I do with every single word.
It's amazing how one word can have so many different meanings.
You know, they're not. They're not different. They're related. It's just the
they're-
breadth of use.
Synonyms. It's a play of word, isn't it? Play words.
In the Hebrew, cinnamon, cinnamon. We still use the same word. We just pronounce it slightly differently. Peace and respect, assembly of God. Did the Quran steal from the Bible? It's
Definitely.
not theft. It's an homage. Vanilla
charitable.
Ice did not steal the music to Under Pressure. He did an homage using the music from Under Pressure.
You're very charitable.
So it's not theft, and there are religions older than Judaism that Judaism has homages to. And I have no problem with that whatsoever, because I am not a King James onlyist and I have no Christian pride. Yes, God told everyone the truth a very long time ago, which brings us back to light and fire and what he was reading.
Exactly.
So what's that dated at? That's what you're reading from. That's dated something. I mean, in spoken word, that's dated something about 15,000 years ago.
Yeah, that was way before the Bible.
Yep.
So the
That's
Lord
probably
here,
why it didn't sound like the Bible then.
But
Well,
it does.
just
Well,
listen
remember
to
all
this.
those perhaps he had in there?
Yes.
Well, it's translated into English. You gotta perhaps understand that.
You have to, perhaps you should understand and give it some leeway.
Yeah, so yeah, because it's in modern day in English, so it was translated to make sense for all of us. Earth,
You
water,
could replace the
fire.
word perhaps with only. Of everyone who seeks me, only 1,000 of them are serious. And of the 1,000 that are serious, only one really understands.
Look, it's kind of even goes beyond that. It says, among thousands of men, only one strives for perfection, and among
Yes.
those who diligently strive for perfection, only one knows me. In
Right.
essence, so the word essence means truth in the Bible. Basically, that's where the conclusion was drawn. Now, earth, water, fire, air, space, mind, intelligence, and ego. These 8 separate elements constitute my material nature. This is my inferior nature, different from it, do understand. My superior nature, the very life element, soul, by which this material world is upheld. Know that this two natures comprise the womb source of everything. Understand that I am the creator as well as the annihilator of the entire universe. There's nothing whatsoever superior to me. All things, being, and objects are strung in me as a row of gems on a thread. I am the taste of water. I am the light of the moon and the sun. I am the syllable in all the scripture, the sound in space, and the virility in man. I am the sweet fragrance in the earth, and I am the luminescence in the fire, the life in all beings, and the penance in the ascetics. Know me to be the eternal seed of all beings. I'm the intelligence of the intelligent. I'm the splendor of the splendid, and I am the strength of the strong, devoid of desire and attachment. However, I'm the passionate desire for self realization in beings, not contrary to the duties of human existence, striving for perfection. O best among the descendants, know all manifestations of existence indeed, be they pure, passionate, or dark, to have emanated from me, they are in me. Yet I, powerful, all encompassing divine self, am not in them. The entire world deluded by these three modes: purity, passion, and darkness, of material nature does not understand me to be beyond these and as inexhaustible. Indeed, this divine illusion of mine, consisting of the modes of material nature, is difficult to cross over. Only those who take refuge in me can cross over this illusion. The miscreants, the deluded fools, the lowest among men, whose wisdom is stolen by the material illusion, who follow the path of demonic beings, do not seek shelter in me.
That's a good place to pause.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so we got a winner. Winner, chicken dinner. Krishna figured it out.
Well, it's not Hindu.
It's not far from Hindu.
But it's not. There nowhere does it mention Hinduism.
No. He thinks it's an Upanishad.
No.
Yeah,
It's
it's not an Upanishad.
no, it's not Hindu at all. It's an Aryan scripture written by God to the Aryans, and the Hindus just picked it up and turned it into something else.
It's an homage. It's not borrowing. It's not theft.
Yeah, it's
I'm
an
gonna stay
homage.
with
Yeah,
that. An
yeah,
homage.
homage. I like that word, homage. It's a
So, your point was that a lot of the same ideas that are there are going to be found in the Bible.
oh yeah,
And
oh yeah,
and
definitely.
what does that mean to you?
That means to me that before the flood, God gave people knowledge of Him, but people did not accept because, like He said, thousands among thousands did not seek Me, and maybe one out of thousands will know the true
Right
essence
on.
of Me. You know. So, I mean, He had to do something about it. God had to do something about it, man, because He gave us the word before the flood, but people just didn't listen. They went on about their own desire, about their selfish ways, not wanting to know the creator of everything. And
Boy,
guess
that
where it
sounds
led
like a
them?
familiar theme.
Oh, isn't it? Isn't it?
Just
That's
slightly.
that's the conclusion I've been drawing out of this. I mean, God's been here since the beginning of time. If you think about it, He reveals Himself all the time. He's because that same question pops out in, oh man, where we come
I'd
from.
sometimes like to ask Christians why their God is prejudice and told only a small group of people in a small part of the world the truth.
Oh yeah,
You
especially those
mean
people.
you
Yeah.
mean like the Jews?
Well,
Oh yeah.
Christians think that the Jews and the Christians, and more specifically only the Christians, have the truth of God, but that means that God was very, very selective in who he told the truth to,
Well, did you read the
which,
Old Testament?
yes, I've read the Old
Do
Testament.
you think God was
Um,
pretty selective?
do I think God was selective
Yes.
in the Old
Did he
Testament?
select a particular people
What
exclusive of all others?
you would profess so, but that would be a misunderstanding of what the word Israel means.
So there was in the Old Testament, God didn't have a relationship with a particular people.
Would you happen to know what the word Israel means?
A wrestles with God.
Right. Now, if I said someone was wrestling with God, what religion are they?
But you're not answering my question, Richard.
I am answering your question. My point is that even in the Old Testament, in only the Jewish texts, which the Christians have adopted, it reads that there are those who believe in God and there are those who don't. And they are wrestling with God, which is what makes them Israel. It's not talking about a tribe or 12 tribes of peoples. It's not the topic.
Well, who are those people
Richard, I want
wandering
to
about?
interrupt real quick. I want to ask Peter a question. Could you tell me when Israel started to wrestle with God? When did they actually become Israel?
When Jacob was named.
When Jacob was named. And in the scripture, in the Bible, the Old Testament, could you give me some verses where God actually refers to them as the nation of Israel?
Some group of people, yeah.
It refers to them as a nation. I don't understand what the question is exactly. Are you saying that? Are you agreeing with Richard that in the
What
Old
I'm what
Testament
I'm
God
what I'm
doesn't?
asking what I'm asking is, when does God actually starts to differentiate and gives them the Leviticus and tells them to circumcise themselves, to mark themselves amongst the others?
Whenever the Bible says.
Okay. Is it before Exodus? Was it
Okay,
in
specific.
Exodus?
What's a specific question? Do you not know the answer to this?
No. What I'm trying to ask you is, who were Israelites?
The descendants of Abraham and Jacob,
Well, what about all the
Isaac,
people after the
Jacob.
flood? Didn't we all come from Noah? Aren't we all descendants of Noah?
No, the sons of Abraham. The Israel came from Abraham.
Okay, so after the flood, Abraham was born. Is that the way you perceive it?
I don't know. I perceive it the way it's written in the Old Testament.
Okay, so what happened after the flood?
I don't understand what's this line of questioning trying to get at.
Well, what I'm trying to understand is, when did Israelites actually became the nation of Israel?
I'm not sure exactly when.
And how many amongst themselves did they kill before it happened?
How many did they kill?
Yeah, amongst themselves, because God commanded them to kill these and kill those.
You want a number? Can you just tell me what point you're trying to make? It would be a lot easier.
I'm trying to understand just like you, really, because what I know, I'm just a man.
I don't understand.
When you say God chose people, the Israelites, to be His people,
Well, that was from Abraham. He chose through Abraham and
well,
his son Isaac.
let's look at what God did. He sent Moses, correct?
That's after Abraham.
Yes, after he promised Abraham that his seed will fill the world. Huh?
What after? What after?
After the promise to Abraham, he saw that they were in Egypt in slavery, and
Yeah.
God sends Moses. Correct?
Well,
Do we
yeah,
agree on that or no?
yes, yes.
All right. So if God sent Moses, how did Moses get to be in
Can
the
you just make your
house of
point?
Pharaoh? In the
Well, I
house
don't
of Pharaoh.
understand what these questions are about. Why don't you just make your point to me and we can discuss it?
Well, we're trying to understand this. I mean, like,
It sounds like you're asking me questions to try to, I don't know what.
okay, so you don't know about the story of Moses, how he was swimming, as a
Do
baby in
you?
the river,
Do
and
you?
then, well, according to the scripture, I mean, come on.
Do you
Well,
know it?
wasn't he placed in a basket in the river and is found in the reeds?
Yeah, correct. Yes. And who picked him up?
Pharaoh's daughter.
Who picked him up? Was it Pharaoh's daughter?
Pharaoh's
I'm
daughter, and
sure
she
it was
doesn't ask
someone of the
permission,
pharaohs.
and she keeps it a secret. Actually, has his own mother nursing.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it was someone of the pharaoh's family because that's how Moses was
It
supposedly
reads
the
daughter,
friend
but that's a
of Pharaoh,
translation.
right?
Some kind of direct relative
Yeah,
of the
yeah.
Pharaoh. Yeah.
Oh, that's very important because at that point Moses had access to all the knowledge of the royal family. So that
Yes.
brought
Or
him into
grows up with that.
understanding. Yeah, he grows up. He's been, risen in that as a child.
Yes.
Richard, I do apologize, mate. I don't want to derail the conversation. I was just talking to Brett Keane on my channel for a second, and he was
Yes, sir.
asking about the banner I was flying, which was the charity for Adeline. And I sort of said it was for, I believe it's Jamie's, like somebody related to Jamie, and said that it was for a poor 2-year-old with neuroblastoma. And he said that if we can get him the details, like complete details, he can spread it round. So
Oh,
he
that would
asked
be
me to pass
lovely.
that along to you. So if you want, I can send you an email or like send you his email, and if you give him all the details, like sort of what's involved and how they're
Aw.
struggling and things like that. He
Sweet.
like Brett Keane does have a lot of he knows a lot of people on both sides, kind of
I
thing.
imagine.
So we can get it out there. So I might put in the private chat my email address and Brett. So if you can just do up, like he was asking for a video or a story, like just do up an explanation and we can kind of broadcast.
There's a website for this, and I'll link him the website if you'll just give him this in the private chat, my email, or if you want to put his in. I mean, he and I know each other okay. We get along okay. I'm sure he wouldn't have a problem with me. I have no problem with him having my email.
You get along with everyone, Richard. What are you talking about?
Peace and
you
respect,
get along
Stephanie.
with absolutely everybody.
I want to. It's not true, but I do
same.
want to.
Oh, yeah, occasionally if you've phoned people. But that's his email and thing. So just shoot him an email and say, hey, what do you need? And I can send you all the details.
Thank you so much for telling me this. I appreciate it.
Oh, no problem. Well, I was just running it as a banner while I was doing my stream. So he was sort of asking about it.
Right on.
Yeah, so I was sort of talking about it at the start of my stream and just get the word out there. I'm sorry, so sorry, guys. I really don't mean to derail the conversation from Moses, the basket, and Pharaoh kind of thing. But I do have to go to lunch. But it's a fascinating conversation. So, Light and Fire, what's the significance of Moses being found? Like when you say Moses had all the knowledge of the pharaohs, what's the significance of that? What are you taking
That's
away
very
from
significant. That's very significant because I'm gonna try to get my take on it. I mean, I'm not.
Sure.
I'm just understanding the way I understand it, trying
Hi,
to make
Stephanie.
sense of it. So, Pharaoh, being a king in Egypt, the king of Egypt, having all sorts of knowledge, obviously brought up Moses into that knowledge. And then Moses comes to Pharaoh and says, your God is not my God. after he killed the man. Think about it.
So Moses went to him and said, "You're not God; it's my God."
Your
After he
God is
killed the
not my
man.
God. Let my people go. After
Right.
he killed the
Okay.
man. He killed the
But
man first.
apart from having sort of a relationship with Pharaoh, I'm not sure of what other significance that may have.
You're not sure what kind of significance that is, no?
Not really,
Just
no.
imagine you're the prince of Egypt or the king of Egypt, or you're the royalty.
Sure,
You're
I
just
can do
sitting
that.
there.
Crown on.
Yeah,
I am mighty.
yeah. So you're sitting there. You got all this power. You can take life as you please. You can give life as you please. You're the pharaoh, man. And
Well, not
this man
necessarily.
that's been brought up by you, that you raised as a child, you gave him all the wisdom you had.
Gave him the
Okay.
scouting report on the shallow parts of the Red Sea.
Oh yeah. You gave him
Well,
all the
there's
knowledge you had. And he comes to you and tells you, your God is not my God, and my God says you should let all my people go.
okay. Well,
And
the
guess
by
what
biblical
God
account.
does? And guess what God does? God gives you a heart of stubbornness where you cannot just let him go. You just got to keep him there. And
Yeah.
not only
So
that, and not
well,
only
the
that,
whole
God,
point is that
yeah.
Pharaoh was the friend of Moses in the story, and sort of says, "Well, I'm willing to let your people go," and would have done so, unless God didn't step in and harden his heart, so he wouldn't feel for his childhood friend and let those people go. I mean, the story explicitly states that, right?
No,
Right.
it doesn't.
Exodus,
Yes, Exodus.
What's the
What does
right?
it
What,
contention?
say?
2:11?
Sorry, I was busy doing something else. What's the contention?
That the Pharaoh would have let the people go if God didn't harden his heart.
It can be read that way.
Which one are you using? KJV or NIV? What are you using?
ESV.
ESV. Okay.
Crypto, that's not funny. Okay, it's funny.
But God loved Pharaoh. He gave him so many chances to let him go.
Sorry, which version was it?
ESV.
ESV. Okay.
God said Moses many times. He was hoping Pharaoh would just let him go.
Although my contention for this reading of that part of the text is that the fundamental difference between the Egyptian and the Jews um, is so drastic that it's actually speaking of the inability of the Pharaoh to understand. So just like say Mark's a tough guy. Let's say on the YouTubes in this little circle, I said something like, I don't care for the directness and straightforwardness of Mark Reed. Okay.
Sure.
What I mean by that is that it's not my flavor. It's not what I like. I like someone who's more pandering to people and more comforting to people than Mark Reed is. So my heart is hardened to Mark Reed. Now, Mark Reed didn't do anything to me personally in order to have that. It's just who he is versus who I am. And I think that it's
Well,
in that way that Pharaoh's heart was hardened.
well, we're talking about the start of Exodus 7, so it's the start of the plagues, right? Because that's what the hardened heart, for whatever reason, the Pharaoh's hardened heart is what brings on the plagues from God
Yes.
to change his mind. So they first do magic tricks with Moses throws down his staff, becomes snakes. Then the magicians of Egypt throw down their staves, and they turn into snakes. Sorry, it was Aaron that threw down his staff. I do apologize.
Right.
But Aaron's staff
Okay.
swallowed up their staves, so Aaron's snake is a better snake.
My snake will eat your
Still
snakes.
Yeah, and that's when it starts out of still the Pharaoh's heart was hardened, and he would not listen to them, as the Lord had said. Now, at this point, it doesn't say whether the Pharaoh had hardened his own heart or God had hardened his
Hey,
heart
Mark.
for him. It doesn't actually specify.
Mark,
Yeah.
read
Yeah.
Exodus 5:2.
Exodus 5:2. But Pharaoh said, "Who is the Lord that I should obey his voice and let Israel go? I do not know the Lord, and moreover, I will not let Israel go." Then they said, "The God of the
So
Hebrews
that was
has met
long.
with us."
That was long before chapter 7
Sure.
that he
Sure.
said, "I will not let Israel go."
Sure.
Okay.
But the whole part is but are you denying that the Lord said that he hardened Pharaoh's heart?
No.
So what's the problem there?
You said that he was willing to let him go because Moses was his childhood friend. I have no idea where you dragged that out of. And then you said he was willing to let him go. But I just showed you in 5:2. Clearly he wasn't.
Give me 1 second. I think it's a bit further on. I think I'm too early here. Give me 1 second. I'll find exactly an example of where he said it.
So here's the fundamental problems. If Christians
I'll give you the verse that you're looking for. Then Pharaoh called Moses and Aaron and said, "Entreat." Then Pharaoh called Moses and Aaron and said, "Entreat the Lord to take away the frogs from me and from my people, and I will let the people go to sacrifice to the Lord." That's you've referred to prior verses, and it's okay. So up until now, Pharaoh's going, yeah, bullshit. I don't. My heart is hardened. Go screw yourself. And then in verse 8, Exodus 8, verse 8, he says, "Yeah, okay, fine. I've had it." And then it gets, Pharaoh's finally sort of going, "Yeah, I'd give it up."
Assembly of God, I'm
Yeah.
happy that you're engaging with people and not just being combative. So thank you so much for
Okay.
the effort.
Yeah, I appreciate it. So the sixth plague was boils. They took soot out of a kiln. This is Exodus 9, 10 onwards. They took soot out of the kiln, and Moses threw it in the air and became boils, breaking out in sores of the man. And the magicians could not stand before Moses because of the boils, for the boils had come on the magicians and upon all the Egyptians. But the Lord hardened the heart of the Pharaoh, and he did not listen to them, as the Lord had spoken to Moses.
There you go. Yeah. And in chapter 10, very first verse, then the Lord said to Moses, "Go into Pharaoh, for I have hardened his heart and the hearts of his servants, that I may show these signs of mine among them."
So I know there are.
And
Go ahead.
that you may tell in the hearing of your son and of your son's son how I have made how I have made sport of the Egyptians, and what signs I have done among them, that you may know that I am the Lord. That's Exodus 10, verse 1.
So, Mark, the overall point here that you're making is that God's screwing with Pharaoh, right?
Well,
And
it's an odd thing. It's kind of like the way that it's written is that God wants to show his divine power to the Egyptians, but it seems like when he does, he hardens Pharaoh's heart so he can show the next one. I think a particularly good one is where the Pharaoh's going, sort of the land is ruined, and I will let you go. And then after the thunder and lightning and rain stops, his heart was hardened, and it says that specifically his heart was hardened, and then he didn't let the people go after the rains had stopped. And it's almost like God claims credit for this. He says, I hardened the heart of the Pharaoh so he will not let you go in order to show him my power. So it's kind of this this weird thing where the Pharaoh would have let them go, except that the Lord was hardening his heart. And I'm not sure how you can.
But we
sort of
pointed
read
out that he
differently.
already had refused to let them go. He already showed that he wouldn't let them go.
Right,
Yes,
but after all of these
Pharaoh was
plagues,
continuously relenting,
Mhm.
and
Okay,
at
I'm
the
not.
end of the day, the Lord starts saying, I've
So
hardened Pharaoh's heart.
can
I,
I
the
point?
Lord,
Yeah.
have have hardened Pharaoh's heart.
Do either of
So
you
it's no
believe the
longer
Bible
It's no
is
longer
true?
Pharaoh. It's no longer Pharaoh that's hardening his heart. It's the Lord who is
Right.
claiming that he has hardened Pharaoh's heart.
But you don't
So I
believe
okay,
just
so
any
want.
of
this
it
is
anyway,
the
right?
guys. This
That's
is the point
irrelevant.
in the conversation where things get a little bit tense. And if you
Yeah.
guys would just lend each other just a little bit of extra time at the
Okay.
end of each sentence, that would be great.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. No problem, Richard. So sorry, Peter. What was your question?
My point is that you said that he was going to let him go because they were childhood friends, but then God hardened his heart. I showed you that no, that's
Mhm.
not what happened. In the very beginning, he said, I'm not going to let you go. Later
Right.
on, yes, I agree. God hardened Pharaoh's heart. I agree with that.
Right.
But I was just saying in the beginning, Pharaoh said, no, I don't respect your God. I'm not letting you go.
Okay. But you do admit that Pharaoh would have let them go, except that God
I
hardened
don't
his
think
heart.
that's clear. I don't think that's clear.
Okay.
But
Well,
but
maybe I could point to another one, like from Exodus 10, and I'll read
well,
this
that
out if
wasn't
that's
even
okay
my
with you.
point, Mark. My point was you said that he was willing to let him go because they were childhood friends, but that's not true.
Yeah, you could be right on that. That's probably right. I do apologize if that's what I said. I must have,
That's
I
okay.
think maybe I got that
That's
wrong.
that's fine.
Um, but
Now
I
this
guess my
part, this
main,
part, this part about hardening his heart, and Pharaoh had
yeah,
hardened his heart, and Pharaoh refused him, and what was the effect of the hardened heart? This is something that's Christians discuss this, and they have different opinions on this.
True.
How much was it that how much was it that Pharaoh's heart, would he have exactly this question? Would he have let him go if God hadn't hardened his heart? And how much of the
yeah.
effect of hardening his heart? What exactly did that affect? If it didn't, these are all, difficult questions to ponder. It's not
Well,
a black
let
and
me
white
read.
answer.
Well, let me read out Exodus 10 then, 10:18.
Okay.
After the plague of locusts. So he went out from Pharaoh and pleaded with the Lord. Oh, this is Moses. So basically, actually, I'll start at 16. Then the Pharaoh hastily called Moses and Aaron and said, I have sinned against the Lord your God and against you. Now, therefore, forgive my sin, please, only this once, and plead with the Lord your God to remove this death from me. So he went out from Pharaoh and pleaded with the Lord. And the Lord turned the wind into a very strong west wind, which lifted the locusts and drove them into the Red Sea. Not a single locust was left in all the country of Egypt. But then the Lord hardened Pharaoh's heart, and he did not let the people of Israel go. So how do you argue that he wouldn't have let them go? You know, he still wouldn't have let them go, regardless of what the Lord did.
Because it doesn't say that.
Doesn't say
But
what.
it does.
It doesn't say he would have let them go if God hadn't hardened their heart.
It literally
he-
does.
Where? What verse?
Well, he said he
20.
sinned against the Lord.
20.
20? Let me look.
Peace and respect, P-Town.
It says, but the Lord
Hey, Richard.
hardened Pharaoh's heart, and he did not let the people of Israel go. But I guess there's definitely you can say it's implied there.
Read 16. Read from 16 through 20.
Of course, I think there's a simple resolution to all of this.
What's that?
Anxious to hear it.
That literally Pharaoh can't feel like the people of Israel feel. He literally cannot.
Yeah, okay, I agree. That seems like, I would say that he hardened his heart there, yes.
Yeah, well, that would be odd,
I would say that you'd be pretty hard to say that the implication that he wasn't going to do it without him hardening his heart.
Yeah, it's a story of a lack of empathy, I think, and that is true. But the agency of the problem here is the agency of the Lord. In here, the Lord is hardening Pharaoh's heart, and that to me is troublesome.
It's not necessarily
Yeah, but it is though, Richard.
No,
if
well,
you read it literally, I think it is.
But like I said before, you're at the point now where Pharaoh has already shown us his nature. It's not like this is some sweet guy who. The only reason he's even considering.
Peter, yeah, okay, I'll let you finish, but I have something to ask you after you do.
Go ahead.
Do you believe in the power of redemption?
I'm so sorry to interrupt.
It was lovely
I'm just going
seeing
to go
you.
get some lunch. No, I'll be back if I can. If you're still going when I get back, I'll be back in because I find this conversation fascinating. So sorry. I will be back if I can. But thanks,
Take care,
Richard.
Mark.
Really appreciate it, mate.
Do you believe in the power of redemption, Peter?
Believe in the power of redemption.
Pharaoh actually repented.
Well, I don't know if he actually repented.
Well,
yes, he did.
But
then Pharaoh called for Moses and Aaron in haste, and he said, "I have sinned against," and he said, "I have sinned against the Lord your God, and against you. Now therefore forgive, I pray thee, my sin only this once, and instead the Lord your God, that he may take away from me this death only."
Which Stephanie just read as well.
And the Lord turned a strong west wind, which lifted the locusts and drove them into the Red Sea. Not a single locust was left in all the country of Egypt. But the Lord hardened his heart, hardened Pharaoh's heart, and he did not let the children of Israel go. And that's the agency. The Lord did that.
What Lord are we speaking of here?
The same Lord we have spoken of throughout the reading of these biblical verses.
Typically, that would be translated from the word, let me see, that would be Jehovah.
No, Jehovah is not the Lord. It would be Adonai. Adonai is the Lord.
What verse is it, please?
It's not. It's verse 20 and 16 against the Lord. It's not using the tetragrammaton. I don't believe.
Just what chapter and verse is it, please?
It is Exodus 10.
Starts at verse 16.
Start
10,
at
16,
Exodus
and
10,
go, yeah.
starting at 16.
Thank you.
I have sinned against the Lord your God.
It's Jehovah.
Is it Yahweh?
It's, yeah.
Okay.
3068.
Yeah, fine.
Anyway, that brings me back to that verse I read earlier.
I mean, sometimes I forget which ones are which
Among thousands
in
of men,
translation.
perhaps one strives for perfection, and among those who diligently strive for perfection, perhaps one knows me in essence.
Yes. That too.
I mean, I just don't see how you can get around the fact that you've got Yahweh basically saying, "Oh, yeah, I'll call off the locusts, but on the other hand, I'm just going to harden Pharaoh's heart."
See, that's the problem with it. It makes the, and I'm not disagreeing with you, Stephanie, because I know of Christians who read it that way. So it's not a non-standard reading, but it does
How
make
would
it
you
flip. It does make it flip flop.
how would you read it? I mean, and the Lord turned, and Yahweh, I'll use Yahweh,
That's fine.
So that
uh,
brings me back to
turned a
Zechariah
very strong
chapter
west
3.
wind,
Light,
which
light and fire.
lifted the locusts and
Light and
drove
fire.
them.
Stephanie, would you start over, please?
Sure. I
Yeah,
apologize for interrupting.
how can you read these two, 19 and 20? How can you read it in such a fashion as to say that Yahweh basically went back on his word? And the Lord turned a very strong west wind. Pharaoh,
Mm-hmm.
if you go from 16, Pharaoh's saying, "Man, I'm done. I'm done. Yeah, I get it. I'm through." Starting at 16, I and and in 19, the Lord turned a very strong west wind, which lifted. So the Lord Yahweh listened to Pharaoh's entreaties and agreed to them. Uh, in turning a very strong west wind, which lifted the locusts and drove them into the Red Sea. Not a single locust was left in all the country of Egypt. But in 20, the Lord, Yahweh, hardened Pharaoh's heart, and he did not let the people of Israel go. Is there a reading in which the Lord doesn't listen to Pharaoh's entreaty, accommodate that entreaty, and then change his mind and say, but still, I'm gonna make Pharaoh turn his heart against the people of Israel?
Okay. So the translation doesn't matter. Here's the most verified words that we have that it got translated from. Here's the verse that you just mentioned. Yes, Exodus 10:20. Here's the words. It does not read but. It's an emphatic and a real short context merism. 2388, 2388, 3068 in between Jehovah, Hazak. And what does that mean? To seize, to be strong, causatively strengthen, cure, help. Okay? To bind. So I'm not disagreeing that it reads the word hardened right here. It does. Is that the best way to think of it? Is that the best way? Well, for the tradition that they translated this into, yeah, it works pretty good for that tradition. Is that necessarily what it's saying? Actually, not so much.
What is an alternate reading of that text? The Lord didn't harden Pharaoh's heart after
Well,
promising that to you know
it's
withdraw
how
the plague of
it's how
locusts.
we understand the Lord meaning over here. So that brings me back to Zechariah chapter 3, verse 2. And the Lord said unto Satan, the Lord rebuke thee, O Satan, even the Lord that hath chosen Jerusalem rebuke thee.
Are we
Is
going to
not
start analyzing verses
I'd rather,
beyond their context?
Yuri, I'd rather not,
no, I'm
if
trying to
that's okay.
understand which Lord did what here.
Okay, so it does say Jehovah, so we know which Lord. Okay? Unless you're going to say that's wrong, in which case I have to say I don't know where you're getting the context from to say that that's the wrong word. And maybe you'd have a great argument for that. I don't know. And yes, you could take this word as hardened. You could, but this is more like strengthened. That kind of hardened, like hardened steel or hardened glass.
Okay, so the Lord, who is the protagonist here,
Mm-hmm.
correct? Can we all
I
agree that Jehovah is the protagonist?
yes, yes.
Hardened, strengthened, steeled, enabled, um, drove into, compelled Pharaoh's, the antagonist, in this sentence, right?
Mm-hmm.
We've got the Lord and Pharaoh. So the Lord, pick pick any one of those phrases, Pharaoh's heart, and he, which I assume
Oh, you're
refers
reading the
to Pharaoh.
usages. Is that what you were reading? Was usages?
No, I'm reading the text.
Okay.
The
When
Lord
you used
prevailed
all those
upon
variants, I thought,
the Lord prevailed upon. I'm looking at what you're scrolling through here. The Lord prevailed upon Pharaoh's heart,
sure,
and he, which I assume refers to Pharaoh, not Yahweh,
I'm sure it
did
does.
not
Yeah.
let the children of Israel go. I don't know
Right.
how you can read that verse in any other fashion is to say that after Pharaoh's entreaty and after Yahweh's withdrawal of the plague, Yahweh hardened Pharaoh's heart and Pharaoh didn't let the children of Israel go.
Perhaps I could say it this way. Um, if Lion were intelligent enough, peace and respect, Bumblebee. If Lion were intelligent enough, and they witnessed one of humankind killing another humankind, or something else, um, would the lion think of it as murder, or would the lion just think of it as killing? Because when we say, if we said something like the lion murdered the gazelle, we're imposing our moral understanding and our feelings onto a lion that doesn't have them.
Well,
And
let's
in
Where is the
qualify.
lion in this? Where's the lion in this verse?
well, the lion in this verse would be Pharaoh. I think we're imposing our feelings onto Pharaoh, and I think
But
Pharaoh doesn't
that
have
that
them.
but in this verse, explicitly in this verse, Yahweh is the actor upon the lion's heart.
I think you've made this point about 10 times so far, and certainly you're getting sick of it. And I wouldn't blame you if you were, because you've said this like many different ways, and
But-
I admire your patience, Stephanie, but you're really not hearing my point. Yes,
I think I am actually,
can I
but
ask
I
a
don't really
question?
quite. Perhaps I don't understand your point because I cannot see a way of
it's just
eliding.
exactly as it's
I don't
written.
see. I don't see how you can elide Yahweh's responsibility in this particular verse. And I'll be quiet at this point.
So I got a question. Is like we're talking about just the specifically the Pharaoh here, but isn't God acting on all of our hearts all the time?
Yes.
Of human beings, yes.
Yeah. So why is the stipulation for Pharaoh even matter here? Why
Well,
is he
actually,
pointed out?
not for all human beings. Actually, it's select human beings if you think about it, because it according to the text, it takes an intervention by God for someone to believe. So you could say anyone who doesn't yet believe, God has not acted on their heart.
Well, I think your answer here, guys, is in Romans 9.
I really do not want to switch text in the middle of this, P-Town.
Well, if Pete
That's
has to just lay
fine,
down the
but you know,
verse, we've
I'm
got.
just
And I just,
I, if you want, you can kick me anytime you like. But if we want to focus on a particular text, I think we need to focus on the context of the text itself,
Well,
rather
so-
than referring to some other esoteric reading that has no bearing whatsoever on the text
I
as
think-
written.
excuse me for interrupting. I just want, it's kind of hard to get in. But I think I read it, I guess I would say I read it in some way, in the way that Bree is implying, in that God is in control of everything.
A
So,
lot of Christians would.
that would be like the Calvinist point of view too, right? I mean that everything was wound up to unwind, specifically how it's unwinding. So everybody's heart is already pre-wound to do.
I mean, so in essence, you could say every heart that's softened is God softening it, and every heart that hardens is God hardening it. But I agree, he specifically makes the point here, and it sticks out like a sore thumb to me too. It's a difficult verse.
I don't think it's difficult at all. I think it's there's a traditional
Well,
reading.
it's difficult
and we-
emotionally.
I think it's absolutely explicit.
Yes, toward the back.
Yeah, that's why that's what it's odd about it is that it's explicit. So are we pointing it out because because he only when he's not doing this, everybody's heart's doing what their heart wants to do, and you're following your own heart, and there's nothing guiding
The
your
argument
heart.
seems to be the story doesn't say what the story says, and come on.
You do know I could say exactly the same thing about mainstream Christianity view on this, right? I could use exactly that phrase. That they are not reading what's obviously there.
well, I can't speak for all Christians, but it says that God hardened Pharaoh's heart.
Yeah,
That's
what
what it
does that mean?
says. It means
Yeah.
that he hardened his
My
heart.
question is, which
Okay.
God?
Simple. I mean, I don't know. What do you want me to?
Okay.
You're
okay,
accusing Christians
so
of not, just reading
I'm
it.
not
and
accusing
Here
Christians
I am,
of
a Christian
anything.
reading
reading
I'm
it.
talking. I'm doing.
Stephanie,
I'm
he's
doing
right. I
ex-
was accusing Christians. He's right. He just wasn't
Well,
talking about
I'm
you
not.
when he said that.
I'm
He wasn't
okay.
talking about you. He
I'm
was pointing a finger at me.
I'm not. I am engaging in strictly textual analysis.
I'd like to do
Who
more
is
of
the
that.
object? Who is the object, and who is the subject in this sentence? In these two sentences, in these two verses.
Stephanie, the two Christians on the panel agree that God hardened Pharaoh's heart.
Okay. So, to take it up from Mark's point, I think, and I kind of jumped in at this point.
Well, Mark's point
That
was
Peter, could you not overtalk Stephanie, please? Stephanie, you were speaking about
I
Mark's point.
I think that Mark was making the point that Yahweh had every opportunity to not intervene in after Pharaoh agreed to let Israel leave Egypt.
And what's the overarching
He
point there?
he after Yahweh agreed, you know, withdrew his plague, his action was why the people of Israel could not leave. Because he, Yahweh, hardened Pharaoh's heart.
That is
I
correct,
think
Steph.
that was Mark Points.
And Peter and P-Town both agree with you. And what's the overarching point?
That Yahweh's a bit of a dick in that regard.
Thank you. Thank you. That's what I was waiting on. Okay. Bree, do you have anything to add?
Well, I've just now popped in. I was interested in this kind of the free will direction things were going in this matter because there is and I say free will, Maya's gonna kick my butt. I mean freedom of choice, because free will, I guess, is a different concept and it's more of a legal concept. So, um, yeah.
So
Not
P-Town and
to
Peter
not
are
be
willing to bite the
coerced.
bullet. Sorry, let's say it again, Bree. I spoke over you.
So to not be coerced, and that's a weird thing in the Yahweh verse, right? That's something that we don't really have, is the ability to not be coerced. The whole, if in that regards, in the Abrahamic universe that they believe in, and I'm not trying to put it down or anything. I'm just saying that in that universe, everything's subjective to his will, right? So everything, he is coercing you to follow a certain protocol in order to gain the better outcome. He's either there's a reward system where you're being coerced to live and present your life a certain way. And this notion with Pharaoh and having his heart directly inflicted upon by these external forces, directly saying, yes, at this point in time, the creator reached down and decided to actually interfere with the way things played out. I don't know, how do you come to
I
terms with that from a
I
biblical
actually
perspective?
see this. I actually see this very different. Like I need to
Mhm.
say that very differently than most people do. And I think the overarching story here is not just that God's a jerk and he's making things rough on the Pharaoh. Peace and respect and demos.
Hey,
But
Nitty.
What's up?
Nitty, how
but
nice to see you.
Yep.
thanks for popping in. Appreciate that. Um,
What's the topic? What are we
that
on?
I'm just gonna have to let you catch up by conversation.
All right,
Pharaoh's a
cool.
dick. That's what
You're a
we're
smart dude.
on.
Oh yeah, yeah.
You'll
It's more
manage
about
it.
Pharaoh's free will that I'm concerned about. Richard, go on.
Okay, so
Actually, Yahweh's a dick. Pharaoh is doing his best, but Yahweh kept throwing sin in his.
that's the
Well,
general
that's
consensus.
because you're assuming the Lord is the same God. I think there's two entities
No,
here.
no,
It's
no.
not
We've
one.
already established that
Well,
the
Richard
Lord,
was in the middle of
when the Lord is cited, the Hebrew text is Yahweh. So
Richard was in the
that's
middle of a
the
response
God.
to my breakdown. I would like to hear what he has to say. Can we let him finish?
Okay, so there are several times that this happens in a traditional reading frame,
Mhm.
which P
Right.
Town and Peter were totally willing to bite the bullet on it and say, okay, my God's being a jerk. They're totally willing to bite the bullet on it. Okay, but I don't think that's demanded by the text. In fact, I think something different, very different, is demanded by the text. Um, because it goes into great detail about how Pharaoh can't feel. And the difference between his kind and our kind is our face turns red, that we are Adamah, that we have emotions that come out in our face. And what differentiates us from them is they don't have emotions. Okay? So
So
if
is Pharaoh?
I were an intelligent looking at this other intelligent, and I don't have emotions and it does, my heart is hardened by it. That is, I can't understand that. My heart is strengthened against it. I don't get it. Just like when you're trying to, Bree, if you've ever tried to teach someone something about entomology, and they already have these preconceived notions about it that are wrong, and you know they're wrong, and you're trying to work with the person to correct them, how they're kind of like putting you off because what they think and feel about it. I think it's very similar to that.
I take that, and but in the text, the antagonist, the Lord, we've already agreed. The antagonist is the Lord. The protagonist is Pharaoh, and the antagonist
The
says,
protagonist is Moses, right?
No, not in the context of the text.
Not just this one verse.
Really, this is really focused on textual analysis here, right? The antagonist is and the Lord. That's the antagonist.
But the hero,
From the very-
even the hero in this verse is presented as the Israelites and the Hebrew people, right?
on.
It's not presented.
No, it's not. No, it's not. This is one verse. This is actually two verses. It's Exodus 10. What the fuck is it? 10, 19, 10, 19, and 20.
20 even says
So-
people. The last two words.
No,
People.
Exodus 10, 19, and 20. There's no people referred to in either 19 or 20.
He's got it up on the screen here. Exodus 10:20. Look, you see it?
Yes, that's the last sentence to
Right.
let the people go. That's not the end. What we're talking about is a dialogue between Pharaoh.
Okay, just bear with me. Those are the people the story is for, right? So
Yes.
when you read in the story, he's talking about our people. So he's putting you in the you aren't Moses, you aren't Pharaoh, you're you witnessing this. So the way that these narratives are written is to present you as an Israel is one of the Israelites in slavery, right? Is how you're witnessing this from that point of view and that perspective. You are one of the people.
Focus on the words.
Uh-huh.
The children of Israel are indeed the subject of the story, but in this verse, it's a dialogue basically between Yahweh and Pharaoh.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and Yahweh turned a very strong west wind, which lifted the locusts and drove them into the Red Sea. Not a single locust was left in all the country of Egypt. But, well, earlier on, I need to backfill a little bit because Pharaoh basically said to we need to go back to 16, okay? Since you jumped in, we'll go.
Okay.
We'll
I actually have a really nice clip of Aaron Ra reading this whole Exodus section about the locust for my channel. I did a video on locust, but I just had him read through this reading. Can I have Richard play it? It's really short. It's like 2 minutes long.
Let's have the link.
Yeah, let me send you the link here, but
I feel like I just got completely.
oh, I'm not trying to make you feel like I'm sorry. I'll just I can share this later. Go ahead.
I mean, I'm sure Iron Rock can give a tremendous thing, and I'm sure that all sorts of people can. But I'm trying to focus this on a textual argument among the people who are here.
Okay, so
Okay,
And I'm sure
back off.
Iron Rock can give a more effective dramatic reading to the
Yeah,
actual
that's what I was.
text
That's
than
what I
I
was talking
can.
about. But I'm sorry, I didn't mean to.
Well, while you're doing that,
And
can I just know from
if I
Richard?
can, perhaps I could, perhaps I could just say that the issue here is who's the protagonist. The Lord turned a very strong west wind, which lifted the locusts and drove them to the sea. After God, Yahweh, had promised to let the people go, and Yahweh, after being informed that Pharaoh was going to let the people go, decided to fling the fucking locusts into the fucking sea. And then at the end of the fucking verse, but Yahweh, the protagonist here, hardened Pharaoh's heart, and he did not let the children of Israel go. In other words, Yahweh queered the deal.
Okay, Mark Reed.
Yeah, so Richard, I just was wondering where you said that there in the Bible it said the Pharaoh can't feel. Where in the Bible is that in Exodus?
It's not in Exodus.
Well, where is it in the Bible?
It's in the Elohim naming the Adama, literally the naming.
Oh, I don't know what that is.
In Genesis.
You're again, here we are jumping from Bible verse to Bible verse.
I'm not. I'm not. Mark just made a special request and I answered him.
Sorry, I thought it was in Exodus. I didn't.
But if we want to get into the root of what Adam means, it's basically dirt. It's basically
red dirt. Yep.
No, it's not.
Okay. What is what does ADM? What is the triliteral root ADM?
It's red in the face like the red clay of the earth.
Right.
It means to show blood in the face.
Okay.
Well, isn't having a blood-rushed face an emotional face?
Yes, it's an emotional face. That's right.
Well, and clearly the Pharaoh showed anger in all of this, and clearly he showed fear.
I don't know about the word
Lord.
Clearly there, Mark.
Well, I mean, he did seem to have reactions to things, correct? I mean,
he had reactions.
Would you say emotional reactions?
I would not. I don't see any expression of any emotion. Okay. I don't see any. Someone's background noise is really bad.
That's me.
Thanks. I mean, I'm certain that Christians normally read it that way, and you might read it that way, but I would have arguments against it. That I don't see any expression of Pharaoh having an emotion, although he did some really practical things and refused to do some things that would have been practical. I don't see and Pharaoh hated, or Pharaoh loved, or Pharaoh was bored, or anything.
Just hardened heart.
Yep, his heart was hardened to Jehovah. Yep, Jehovah hardened his heart. Yeah.
So I guess the thing that, I mean, that's definitely one interpretation. I'm not sure that sort of a reading would support that looking at God hardened his heart rather than the Lord doing that action unto him. I don't know many scholars that would agree with that interpretation, but I mean, you can have
probably
that interpretation.
Zero.
Yeah,
probably
but
zero.
I guess that the problem that I have is with the culmination. So let's leave aside whether hardening the heart is him gazing upon God and sort of getting emotionless or getting indifferent to the suffering of others. And let's go to what was the culmination of these passages. So let's look at the morality of what God did after Pharaoh's heart was hardened, whether that be by God or be by something else. I think that's a really important thing to talk about.
Hey, can I ask something, please?
Of
I've
course.
actually
You mean a second thing? Sure.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, so when did God harden Pharaoh's heart? Was it
Repeatedly.
Yeah, repeatedly.
repeatedly? So every
Yes.
single event that took place that was a detriment
It's
to
like
Pharaoh.
every other.
Okay, so it was just this happened throughout the process, basically.
Yeah.
So
Well, there's some passages that says, and the Pharaoh's heart was hardened. And even if we leave aside those passages saying, hey, they weren't God doing those ones where it just said it was hardened, there are multiple instances that refer to God specifically hardening the Pharaoh's heart.
No one's denying
so
that.
wouldn't it?
Yeah,
so
I
wouldn't it?
know.
So wouldn't it make sense to read it to where the Pharaoh's heart would be hardened based on God's actions, not necessarily, because God has a goal he wants to achieve, right? Pharaoh has a goal where he wants to keep the people, right? And so if God goes about to stop Pharaoh from keeping the people, that's hardening his heart, then I guess it makes sense. We're stubborn.
We
right?
can see in real time. I'm sorry to interrupt. Could Yahweh's favorite whatever? Could you please speak? And I wouldn't mind if you showed me your camera.
Oh,
Honestly,
that's
must be nothing but
that's
a
me.
screen, to be honest with you.
That's
Someone's
who?
screen sharing.
No,
I'm screen
this is
sharing.
Hillary's email is Yahweh's favorite.
Oh, okay, thank you,
You're
Hillary.
welcome.
Appreciate
You're
it.
Hey, Hillary's.
Okay,
I
so
find
we
that
can
hard to believe.
we can see this in real time in argumentation, especially like in open conversation that's relatively or fairly aggressive, where if two people are talking past each other and they don't understand the other's position, they will get frustrated. They will start acting a certain way, acting aggressively because of that. So even in things that have emotions, we can watch this happen where Jesus is Lord, I harden his heart. Now, I've never purposefully done a thing other than reactionary to even lightly offend the man. But go and look at his channel and all the videos he's done about me, and you'll find that his heart is hardened to me. And I think that's the way this is being used.
I disagree. I disagree because I disagree on the basis of the text.
That's not an argument.
Because, okay, you may say that. I disagree on the basis of the text because someone, Yahweh, hardened active thing. Someone hardened Pharaoh's heart. Not that Pharaoh's heart remained hardened because of the nature of Pharaoh, but the Lord himself hardened Pharaoh's heart.
Yeah,
and I'll get into Semitic roots if you want, with regard to the meaning of what ADM means, but I think
I would like to say something after
I
Steph's
think that
finished.
in the plain meaning of the text, there's an active participant here. Someone hardened someone else's heart. the heart wasn't pre-hardened in this text. And I've said it a million times as you have reminded me, but I don't know how you can read the text literally in any other way.
Well,
unless
I'm
you're
sorry.
trying to be unless you're trying to make an apologetic.
Well, I have 2 points to bring up in response to what Richard said. The first one is that God never actually met with the Pharaoh. The Pharaoh never met with God. He never interacted with God at all. So he only interacted with Moses. So what I think is that it's very difficult to say that he's referring to sort of, the interaction hardened his heart, like you made the analogy to Jill had his heart hardened by meeting you or interacting with you, because that never actually happened. The only one that he met with was, the only two was Moses and Aaron. He never actually met with the Lord. So I kind of find that to be a problem with that interpretation. The other problem I have
could we do those one at a time if you can remember the second one?
Oh yes, of course. Yeah.
Because I really suck at that.
No, that's okay. That's fine.
What you're saying is absolutely fine if you have never presented the argument from divine hiddenness. And if you have, then that hardens your heart.
I'm sorry, could you repeat that?
The problem of divine hiddenness.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever used that as an argument against the existence of the Christian God?
Depends on which God, which sort of form of the Christian God you're sort of talking about.
I'll just say Jehovah then.
Yeah, Yahweh.
Yeah, probably, yeah.
Okay,
I would say so.
Then either that hardened your heart, or there's no point to the argument.
It hardened my heart.
Which means you have no evidence of God because of divine hiddenness, and that makes you think that God doesn't exist.
Right, but you could say the same that any argument hardens your heart. You could make that of any argument whatsoever.
But you were quoting the text as showing divine hiddenness to Pharaoh. So that's why I used divine hiddenness.
Well, no, that's not.
No.
I mean, no, it would be if God was using a argument divine hiddenness, I could understand that. But Pharaoh never interacted with God.
Directly.
So how
Divine
does
hiddenness.
God? Yeah, but how does God, who never interacts with Pharaoh, harden his heart rather than?
He did.
Hang on.
Okay, go ahead.
Rather than Moses and Aaron hardening his heart.
Because Moses and Aaron were the agents. They're like ambassadors or whatever. And so the hardening came from God, the primary. See
That
what I'm saying?
doesn't make a lot of sense for me in the way that it is written, kind of thing. Because every single other action that is done, it is the Lord conveying to Moses and Aaron, go and tell Pharaoh this thing or that thing, or go and do this. And then you're sort of saying at the very end, it switches to, well, through Moses, which you're saying, hey, it didn't say that, but what it means is through Moses, Pharaoh had his heart hardened. But that's not how it's written.
It could have been.
Because he's not saying that.
Yeah, I'm not saying that.
I have a consistency in that.
There's
I
a
did have a
problem
second
with
point
consistency.
that I do want to bring up.
Okay,
well, I mean, I don't mind,
really...
but if you're sort of saying, hey, they've always intimated that they've been, the Lord says do this and it is done on his behalf, and then you're saying, well, it could be that the Moses and Aaron hardened his heart, but it's attributing it to the Lord. That is not how the text reads at all. Like, you'd have to make.
We're not saying that.
Oh,
Moses and Aaron aren't the ones hardening his heart.
God hardened,
agents.
Right?
Yeah.
God hardened his heart. That's my point. It's exactly my point. God.
We believe what the text says. Simple.
Stop saying that, P-Town. That doesn't make any sense.
Sorry, I think that Pharaoh's a human, Richard.
Well, that's okay if you think that, but the statement
Well,
you said
actually,
doesn't make sense.
Pharaoh was like an office.
Not your follow-up.
So, like in
Well,
today's
correct.
language, we would say, instead of Pharaoh, we would say the White House. So the
Yeah,
president
but that's
isn't the White
but
House.
we're talking about the occupant of the White House. The Pharaoh
Right.
is we're talking about the president. You know, we're
That's
Right.
talking
fair.
about the
Okay.
occupant there.
Yeah, in
I
the
mean,
text it mentions Pharaoh
let's not split
court.
hairs here.
Okay.
Right. So in the text it says the Pharaoh's court, right? If you're
Right.
saying the Pharaoh is the entire institution of royalty, you wouldn't say the royalty's court kind of. That isn't. No, it's talking about the head of the monarchy for the Egyptian society. It is talking about the Pharaoh.
We
It's
all
just
agree.
I
using
think we
more
could.
words.
Yeah. My question kind of is, when they say Pharaoh's court, isn't that kind of redundant? Because it
Well,
is the
but they're
Yeah, but
president
saying
we're
is the
not.
Pharaoh.
But this is an abstraction of what we're
Okay.
actually talking about here, right?
yeah.
Okay.
And so I want to get to my second point as well, if you can indulge me just briefly. The other problem I have with this being the Pharaoh sort of looking at God and saying had his heart hardened in sort of a almost metaphorical way or sort of a attitude way of looking upon something, apart from that he never met the Lord, is that he basically came to an agreement with Moses and Aaron of how to remediate the problem. He kind of said, "Yes, I have sinned, and your Lord is powerful, and you know, I have sinned, and I will bow to the Lord." Now, he obviously meant that at the time, and the reason why I say that is because the Lord would have known if he was just lying and didn't actually believe it. So there's this problem of he definitely had his mind changed by the plagues. I don't think you can read the text any other way. He admitted that he'd sinned and that their Lord was more powerful and had his mind changed. For him to change it back with no other interaction recorded except for what the Lord did. And I think that is sort of pivotal to my argument that it is God directly changing his position. That he changed his mind for him. The Lord basically changed it into hardened his heart into something that, you know, a position that he wouldn't ordinarily had.
Does anyone
So
want a shot at
That's
that
what it
besides me?
says.
Oh,
so
like three
me.
people do. One at a time, though.
Sure.
Okay, so I largely agree with you, except the part where, I think we're missing the part where um, the Pharaoh's oldest son died. That was the final nail in the coffin for him in a lot of ways, in that because of that, he decided that he was going to bow to the Lord, right? Give up, and he's going to let the people go. Now,
Right.
if I was him, right? And I know of this deity that has taken the life of my child, right? I'm filled with emotions at that point, and I'm most likely going to want revenge, right? Then my mind can change, right? Because I guess the question is when he set out to go after the Israelites again, right? Was it his intention to kill them, or was it his intention to capture them, right? But I think it's normal for someone to change their mind under those circumstances when when an adversary takes the life of their child. Now
Um,
he
I'm
just one more
I'm
quick
not
thing.
sorry.
So
Yep.
so he doesn't have direct access to God, right? But he he can hurt whatever that is precious to God, right? He understands that these people are precious to God, and so therefore, if they're his children, took the life of mine, I'm going to take the life of theirs. It's a typical revenge mindset. So I don't necessarily see you know, I don't see that as being far fetched. Now, in terms of the hardening process, right, the hardening of his heart process, I think it makes sense that that's something that happens throughout the events, right? Up until the point where, again, this child got killed, right? However, I think it. I think he just changed his mind because he's grief stricken and wants revenge. And I feel like that's perfectly normal. And to not take that into consideration, I think, I don't know, I feel like you're ignoring a pivotal part of just human nature.
But when did Pharaoh's son
We're
die?
We're not there yet.
we're one plague away from
Yep.
Right.
the deaths.
Don't lose hope.
You know, the point is, okay, so the point is the Lord hardened his heart with the locusts. And then the next one is then the Lord said to Moses, stretch out your hand toward heaven, that there may be darkness over the land of Egypt, but darkness to be felt. So Moses stretched out his hand toward heaven, and there was thick darkness in all the land of Egypt. 3 days they did not see one another, nor did any rise from his place. For 3 days. But all the people of Israel had light where they dwelt. Then Pharaoh called Moses and said, go, serve the Lord. Pharaoh says to Moses, go, serve the Lord. Your children also may go with you. Only let your flocks and your herds remain behind. But Moses said, you must also let us have sacrifices and burnt offerings, that we may sacrifice to the Lord our God. Our cattle must go with us. Not a hoof shall be left behind, for we must take them to serve the Lord our God. And we do not know with what we must serve the Lord until we arrive there. But the Lord hardened the Lord hardened Pharaoh's heart, and he would not let them go. Then Pharaoh said to him, get thee away from me, take heed for yourselves, never see my face again. For in the days see my face, you shall die. And Moses said, as you say, I will not see your face again.
Of the non-Christians in the room, how many of you think this is historically accurate?
Oh,
Mark?
not at all. I don't. No.
No, I don't think the Exodus was a thing that actually took place.
Yeah.
No.
Stephanie?
I think it's a good story.
But
That's a
not
great story.
historically accurate.
No. Not at all. There's
You know,
there's no
in
evidence.
Jot and Tittle, no, I don't believe so. Were there? I believe actually the oldest, most scholarship would attest Job to be the oldest book in the Tanakh,
Okay.
and I don't. I think it is a compilation of traditions among the Hebrews, both Israelites and people of the tribe of Judah. I don't think it's an account of an Exodus.
Okay.
Well, there's no historical evidence that the Jews were ever enslaved in Egypt. Sort of archaeologists can't seem to find evidence that an entire people were
I think
enslaved.
it's
Just a sec. Just Stephanie, come on.
Go ahead,
just a sec. There's what you would expect from an entire people being enslaved by another is some kind of, a lot of written records, a lot of change of ownership, a lot of, at least art of people toiling away. But none of it seems to be, while they did keep slaves, none of it seems to be the entire Hebrew people. So, I'm not an archaeologist, but that is what is said, that there doesn't seem to be this evidence for it.
And to tag along, I think it's an allegory of Egyptian domination of Canaan. And I think that most of these tales are tales of a people who endured Egyptian domination in various forms, one way or another.
So maybe a further threat.
The Joseph myth and all of this stuff. I mean, Egypt was the dominant power until the Assyrians conquered that area, and I think that the Hebrews are native Canaanites. To be honest, that's my view.
Well, that's a very interesting view, Stephanie, considering how much you insist that it reads what it reads.
Well, the text is that this is a different thing, Richard. It's different to engage in textual analysis than it is to engage in archaeological investigation.
Right, it's an internal
textual analysis can be applied to the works of Charles Dickens,
Shakespeare.
True enough.
Or Shakespeare, or any other things.
Anything.
And I think that it's a bit of a people who rely on text as the foundation of faith. I'd have the same difficulties engaging with people who are devoted Tolkien scholars.
Yeah. Right. Okay. So you're really talking about immediate and larger context, what it's actually talking about in say one verse versus the overall meaning of all of it, if I'm understanding you correct, or is that stupid? Did I say something stupid?
Right. I don't believe in the words of the Silmarillion as a foundational as representing historical fact. I believe if I want, I'm happy to engage in analyzing the text.
Good stories, though.
Of the story, but it's just a story. All of these things are just stories.
Okay. So, and
I'm
sorry to be so prejudiced. What's that?
There could be parts that are true. Like they may have drawn upon places and sort of, things that may have happened for inspiration, but that's, it's kind of what we would expect to find in sort of the archaeological record isn't backing up that this story happened as it is written.
Right. Okay. And I hate to be working so hard to have conversation with those who are not Yahvists and asking the Yahvists to be quiet, and I apologize for that, but you guys aren't going to agree with me on what I'm about to say, those of you who are Christians of whatever ilk. I really believe that this has no historical foundation. I think these things did not happen on this earth. I think that if it does have any value at all, it has prophetic value. Now, I'm not the first one to say that the plagues on Egypt look a lot like the plagues of end times. But I think they're literally the plagues of end times, which is why I think I can say easily that Pharaoh represents the Hashatan in this story, the Satan, the devil, and that's why I'm saying he's very different from us. Because pharaohs didn't act like this. Pharaohs didn't think this way. Pharaohs were politicians and rulers. They wouldn't have done stuff like this. And they wouldn't be a sitting pharaoh very long if they had.
In actual history,
yes,
the pharaohs considered the pharaohs of the rulers of Egypt considered the inhabitants of Canaan a major pain in the ass.
Yes.
So,
welcome, Wesley Curry. You've had no chance to talk. Please say something.
Hi. Well, actually, I've asked Jesus Christ, starting February 1st, 2023, tomorrow, to send his angels to all on earth to read the Bible, the exact words he gave to those he chose to script it.
That's a very
and
clean
it will begin
thought.
tomorrow.
That's very nice. Well, thank
Should
you
be
for
a,
sharing that, Wesley.
you should hear
Well, we'll see
Moses
if that
telling you from the Old Testament, John telling you from the first book of the New Testament, with a little bit of a little band, little music, psalms performed by David and his musicians on the original instruments. Now this will
Well, that's
be in the
lovely, but
Spirit. It will
let's
be in the
not give
Holy
too much
Spirit.
away, Wesley, because people will
Yeah.
start to exercise bias if you tell them too much.
Well, I
Right.
just
So we'll just see if
that's
it happens, right?
Bible class starts tomorrow. Saturday, everyone gets Saturday off, and then we'll start again on Sunday.
Okay.
So what's that in my time zone?
It'll be whatever time is. Jesus
that
will
like-
send the angels at the
Is that
time
gross mean time?
you're. I
that
speak to
gross mean,
Jesus.
like
Yeah, the one that
Greenwich
showed
Mean
up to
Time?
you and said television. That one, and television is not a
What one?
question.
Jesus,
Okay. Well,
operates on coordinated universal time.
Oh, UTC. Okay, no problem. I'll probably
Yeah.
expect it.
Tune
Well,
in.
if that's the case, they should have had it already, right? Because it's
Yeah,
like,
really. You probably should have already had that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Will it be in
it's
English though?
1246
I think most
here.
of us only speak English. I wouldn't
Yeah,
think
it'll be
Okay.
spoken
Well,
in every
presumably
language
everyone
known to
can
man.
understand it, Bree. I think that's a bit cynical. How dare you?
Yeah,
Whatever
come on.
language a person speaks, they'll hear the angels speak in their language. This is a
Okay.
worldwide thing.
I would think
That's
so.
fine.
Thanks for sharing that
Well-
message there, Wesley. I appreciate it.
Yeah,
I'm
so-
excited.
I mean, I understand what all our positions are, and I get some of the apologetics for the hardening of the heart thing. At the risk of sort of, pushing us onward, what I really want to talk about is the final plague, right?
May I ask you a question? Were I
Wesley,
able
if you
to?
could wait till he was done with this sentence, I'd really appreciate it.
Sure, it's about what you're talking about.
Okay.
Right.
Let him finish the thought, please.
Oh, no, I was just saying I'd like to move on and sort of discuss why God would punish the Pharaoh by killing the firstborn son of everybody in Egypt, from the nobles to the impoverished workers to slaves to everybody of Egyptian descent, and whether that is the moral thing to do if the leader of the country has offended you, to wipe out an entire generation of male children. I want to discuss that.
Okay,
Well, it's
so I'm
not
going
the
to
entire
leave. I'm going to leave
generation.
Bree in charge. Bree, is that okay?
Of male children.
I'm good.
Yes,
Yeah,
it
go
was.
ahead,
It was
Smoke.
the firstborn child. What are
Bree
you
is one of the
talking about?
best
Firstborn son.
moderators I've ever met. Everybody listen to Bree. Bree's good people. Okay, I'm going to go have a
Absolutely.
cigarette. You guys enjoy yourselves.
Yep, I'm here.
Thanks, Richard.
Mark, what I was
Bree's
saying
the
was,
best people, and Richard, enjoy your smoke.
yeah, the firstborn all died, but that's not the entire generation. So the second and thirdborn, they were still alive.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, but I guess it's the, yeah. I mean, it's still a. How many children do you think that was?
Quite a few.
How many babies do you think it was?
Yeah.
So
Do
were
you
there
think that's
specific
moral?
like borders to where because it's all the children of Egypt, right? So was the that like the modern borders of Egypt, the borders of Egypt at the time? I'm just trying to figure out how, or was it? Surely it wasn't global. He wasn't killing all the babies all over the world, was he?
Well, it depends. It depends on where
Mm.
you situate in time. It depends on where you situate the timing of all of this. If the timing of all of this is, let's say, 1300 years before the Christian era, then Egypt extended into Canaan itself. Egypt and
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too. Egypt was like a big
yeah.
empire, right? At the
Egypt,
time.
Yes,
Egypt and Assyria were vying for control of the Levant, the area that Israel and
Fertile
Judah.
Crescent.
Well, no, Israel and Judah currently.
Yeah, that's why I was wondering if, because Egypt was like at that, there was a point in time where they were like,
Egypt was in control of Canaan at the time of
and most
if,
of the known
if that's
world,
the
right?
time.
Most of the world that they knew about was under Egyptian rule. That the people that were writing these stories knew about anyway.
Well, the big baddies were, from the perspective of the people who were living in Canaan, were Egypt and Assyria.
Can I read something out and just sort of put this in perspective? So this is the 10th plague. At midnight, the Lord struck down all the firstborn in the land of Egypt, from the firstborn of Pharaoh who sat on his throne to the firstborn of the captive who was in the dungeon, and all the firstborn of the livestock. And the Pharaoh rose in the night and hears the service as a great child, a cry in Egypt, for there was not a house where someone was not dead. So it's really to the Christians here is what did like some poor girl doing, playing in her garden, has nothing to do with the Pharaoh, just lives in poverty. What did they do to deserve death?
For those of you not following along, I believe that Mark is referring to Exodus 11.
Yeah, Exodus 12.
Verse Exodus 12? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I was looking at Exodus 11, verse 4, but
is it?
Death of the firstborn. I got it. P-Town might be the best to answer, but I would say it was just very unfortunate that they were in Egypt. But it's, if America was attacked by a nuclear weapon, it wouldn't be fair that people outside of DC got hit, maybe. But I mean, sadly.
Sorry, go ahead. I'm sorry.
But if this story is accurate, then apparently Yahweh was making a point of saying that everyone was being hit. I think it is pretty crappy, that even the captive, his kid was killed. That's why P-Town might be the better one to answer.
I'm certainly interested in P-Town's take on it. Absolutely.
Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
Yep.
I want to disclose that I have not looked into this at all. But I don't mind trying to answer Mark and entertaining the conversation. It's clearly bad to kill people. And I think it's clearly bad what God did. I just want to correct you. As far as I know, it wouldn't be a little girl when the Bible talks about the firstborn. Yeah, I know it's sexist,
Really?
but it's talking about a man, typically, as far as I can tell. Yeah.
Yeah.
So your example is not. Yeah, but still, we still get your point. Let's say a little kid playing in their yard or sleeping. I think it happened at night, to clarify too. Let me go off my memory. I don't believe it happened to the Israelites who marked their homes, or am I getting something mixed up?
No, that's
You guys can
correct.
correct me.
Okay.
It happened.
Right.
Revenge
So
is the Lord's.
now this is how I make sense of it. Two things. I'll just skip it to two things. After this event, when it comes to Moses and they're in the they're marching around the wilderness. God claims the firstborn of the Israelites as being his. So when I studied that, it's in the numbers. I think that these kids and the firstborn were in a sense raptured. They were killed, but they were raptured. This is a P-Town apologetic, so I haven't verified this. The main point though, I think, is what's going on, Mark, is it's acting out prophecy. Keep in mind that the firstborn, I think, were ordered to be killed in Jesus' time to try and prevent the coming king, the coming Messiah, which is Jesus Christ.
Can I take a moment to clarify something you said there about raptured? Do you think that their bodies were left behind and their spirits left, or that their bodies were gone too? Because I think it's like it says up there that they found their bodies, right?
Right.
Yes.
Yeah. No. Yeah. So, but I want to clarify before I answer you, Bree. that the main point here is that in this whole ensemble is acting out prophecy. It's pointing towards Christ in the end, and it's kind of sad that I think it's kind of sad that God chose to do it this way.
Jesus is going to perform that same thing to this generation upon all who take the mark of the beast, called the Omni. In one day, everyone that has the Omni, he shall remove the Holy Spirit from them, and they shall die where they stand in the streets. And anyone that tries to hide it or bury them shall be killed by Jesus with them. It will be done he's going to remove the pearl of white light in their bowels. That pearl is the vision he told you to tell. And that is how they shall be killed. In this generation, you will see this again worldwide.
Okay, so you're saying it's prophecy, but it doesn't read like prophecy. And sort of Stephanie made a sort of connection to that with Exodus 11, then going on 12, where basically it's prophesized and then actually done. And that's what you can tell. It's not prophecy. Because in 11:4, Moses said, "Thus the Lord, about midnight I will go into the midst of Egypt, and every firstborn in the land of Egypt shall die, from the firstborn of Pharaoh who sits upon his throne, even to the firstborn of the slave girl who is behind the handmill, and all the firstborn of the cattle." Right? So it makes that prophecy. And then Exodus 12, it said it actually happens. Right? So that's not... You can't sort of say, hey, that's prophecy for some time in the future, because
hold on, I think
in Exodus 12:29, at midnight the Lord struck down the firstborn in the land of Egypt. That is the prophecy being fulfilled. You can't say, hey, it didn't get fulfilled then, but it's going to happen in the future. I think that's just...
I think it's really important that I answer this.
This is the text. It's the text.
We'll
get back.
When I have an atheist Bible study, it's important that I answer those accusations. And I don't. I'm sorry.
Well, it's not accusations. It's just sort of saying. I find it difficult.
It's not an accusation. It's reading
prophecy,
the text,
because it has the prophecy made and fulfilled in the next verse.
Mark, I think
next chapter.
Mark, the way that the Bible operates when it comes to prophecy, there's many types. You'll be able to drill a lot of holes into a lot of the ways that God patterns what is going to come. But that's the point that of what's going on here. Prophecy can be repetitive. It's not just a 1 + 1 = 2 thing. It could be a 1 + 1 + 1 = 3.
Is the text meaningful?
That's a very broad question.
No, it's a specific question. Actually, does the text mean what it says?
Oh, I believe it means what it says. Yes.
Okay, then we're reading the text, and it is difficult for me to hear a Christian who purports to support the textual literacy of the Bible dismiss the text as read.
What am I dismissing? Sorry.
Well, you're saying
the literal meaning of the text.
Well, you're saying this
is peculiar
something
that you look at it in those terms, and not in the terms that those that did what Jesus told them to do, he did not kill.
So
that's
problem
fine,
comes,
but that's not the text we're reading from at the moment.
The problem comes that you're saying that the Hebrew people were released from Egypt for some reason, because if that's a prophecy, then it doesn't apply to what actually happened. And even when it's describing them leaving, it's saying that they went out with haste, for they said, we shall all be dead if we keep the Hebrew people as slaves. So you've got to then provide an explanation of why the Egyptians suddenly want the Hebrew people out of their land.
And what happens if no one gives you that explanation? Does that mean it didn't happen?
well, that means that you've basically saying that even though the text explicitly gives the reason, that's not the correct reason, but I don't know what the correct reason is, but it can't be the reason that it's given. I find that very unconvincing.
Okay, here, Mark.
Well,
So I'm in the dark here. I don't have my Bible up for me, and I'm not that well
Okay.
versed in this. But let me, I'll entertain this. This
Okay.
scripture just keeps echoing in my mind right now. It's out of Egypt I will call my son. I can't remember where specifically they were trying during Jesus' time. I know you're not going to say this is prophecy or related, but from my perspective, it's acting out. It's acting out prophecy using patterns. And then during that time, there was a decree sent out to do the same exact thing to kill, well, not the exact thing, but to kill all kids under like 18 months, all males, to try and prevent Jesus from coming about. And I think it was specifically, possibly, this is I don't have the memory, but I'm
That's
guessing
Matthew.
from it just because of the Old Testament. This is why I'm guessing. I can't remember the New. It might have been throughout Egypt. And
No, that's Matthew.
or did they go to Egypt? Can't
That's the
remember.
birth story
Yeah,
of
right.
Matthew,
That's
Well,
Herod the
which
I
there
is a
comes
Great.
a time.
completely
understand that,
different
Stephanie. That's
thing.
my point. No, see,
Well,
I guess you guys
Okay.
aren't getting
yeah,
that. That's my
but
point. Is I'm saying
but
it's acting out prophecy.
There comes
Okay.
a
Right.
time
but
when people are
to
going to
Mark's
be
point,
so
but to
wicked and
Bree, I think
so
you need to
evil
take control.
and so perverted, and they will say that their wicked and evil and perversions are good, and they are so perverted that they will, in our generation,
Leslie, you
rather
can't do
eat
this.
the
You
flesh
can't.
of children and be
Yeah.
branded with a
totally off topic.
UPC barcode because of their love for money. That's how wicked and evil they are. They will knowingly eat the flesh of their children. It will be labeled as tuna or chicken and be sold for $40 a bag in the Omni bar stores. They are so
Okay.
that's
wicked
right.
and perverted that they will eat
Right.
the flesh
This is
of
going to
their
continue for
children
ages.
for
Totally
Leslie,
off
you're
money
topic.
starting to
This
repeat
is
rather
yourself.
than through a
all right.
simple
So
thing
you're
that
writing
Jesus
new.
told.
You're writing new
Rick,
prophecy, but that is not the pro. This is not. This was not written in Exodus 11. It was not written in Exodus 12. What we're
Right. And
talking about is what was written then.
well, I'd like to
well,
address P-Town. No,
your
P-Town,
way of
come on, mate. Come on. No, P-Town, you said some stuff about the New Testament. I want to be able to address it. You're sort of trying to move on really quick from the story of Herod the Great that killed the firstborn sons, trying to prevent the birth of Jesus. Like, I get that's what you're referring to. But the problem there is the person doing that is Herod the Great, who was an evil king, right? He was a horrible person. The person killing the firstborn in Egypt is the Lord. And somehow you've got to square that and to sort of say, well, the passages are just prophecy about Herod the Great. There's nothing in the Bible that reads that way to say this will occur. It basically, the Lord says unto Moses what he will do. That is the prophecy, that the firstborn, for everybody from the Pharaoh's firstborn to the slave girl at her hand mill, they will all die. And then in the next chapter, it describes that happening, not only that happening, how the Jewish people can get around it by putting blood and on their doors. And it also describes how the people of Egypt got panicked and went, we've got to get the Hebrew people out of here or we all will die. And so to say that was a prophecy for some point in the future, I'm really sorry, mate. It beggars the description. Like, I don't know what to say to that.
I'm going to say
Just
something even more
P-Town,
ridiculous. I'm
P-Town
going
for.
to just real
Go
quick,
ahead.
Stephanie. I'm going to say something really ridiculous. After
Okay, I'm done.
3,500 years, I expect us to wrap up this conversation tonight.
Yeah, you're right.
I wouldn't bet
That's
on it.
not going to
I wouldn't
happen,
bet on it.
Richard.
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
Well,
But
act like it,
P-Town,
okay?
P-Town,
I mean,
P-Town. Yeah, absolutely. P-Town for your future reference, I would refer you to Matthew chapter 2, verse 13 and 13 through 16. Okay. actually, 13 through 18. That's where you'll find the slaughter of the children in Jerusalem and the fulfillment of that prophecy. It's another story. Have fun with your stories.
Yeah, that's kill all the
How many
boys.
theists in
I
the
can't hear
room
you,
right now
Mark.
have their Bibles open?
That was to kill all the boys in Bethlehem. Like, it
I got
wasn't
my
even the
And
firstborn.
they escaped to Egypt, correct? I can't remember. I'm
Correct.
going off my.
That's
Okay.
correct.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just a normal
Yeah.
Christian dude in the dark, going off my memory here, trying to
I'm
just
just a
be
normal
honest with my
atheist dude in the
answers.
dark. I'm just an honest atheist dudette
Well,
in the
at least
dark,
you got your
reading
Bible
the
out.
fucking Bible.
Yeah, you're doing better
Yeah,
than me, bro.
I've read the Bible a million times, and I've read the Quran a million times, and I've read the Book of Mormon a couple of times because the Book of Mormon's complete bullshit. But you know,
Oh,
it's you know, come on, people, they're stories.
Well,
They
Okay.
have
I do
meaning.
feel
They have meaning. They have meaning to me. I don't. When I say I've read the Bible a million times, I've read the Bible a million times because I was raised in that.
I feel
And
bad. I
the
didn't get the
stories
answer.
and the stories therein have meaning to me. But but they have meaning in the sense that many works with with that touch on the numinous, that touch on the feeling of of our common humanity, have things to contribute to my own life. But what they don't have to contribute to my own life are teachings of hatred and teachings of of apartness.
Okay, I want to
I
give
mean, I think
everyone a
we need to.
chance to speak.
I think we need to. I think we need to focus on what brings us together rather than things that drive us apart.
Awesome.
right, and I've got total sympathy for you, Peter. And I get that you don't have a Bible and stuff, but I think the problem for me is that a lot of the faithful of Christianity, they make a lot of statements about, God's goodness and all these other things, and some of them do conflict. And so, sort of, when you say, oh, it was only the boys, it wasn't the girls, and it clearly states it's even to the slave on a girl on a hand mill kind of thing.
her
We've
son.
It was her kids. Her
Yeah.
kids, as far.
no,
I
not for
think.
the 10th plague. No, not for the 10th plague,
I just heard you
unfortunately.
read it, and it's not to. I don't mean to be rude,
That
but I
was
think that's
Matthew. That was Matthew 2.
okay.
That was Matthew 2 when Herod tried to kill all the. And the thing is, Herod tried to kill the boys, not even the firstborn boys, just the boys under 2 years of age, because Jesus was born about that time, right? So the two events are completely, well, not completely different, but they are different. They were being done for different reasons, and they don't line up. But the 10th plague was every firstborn, including the girls. Just every firstborn in the land. And the problem comes when Christians sort of say, hey, God is this loving and generous and thing. And then we see acts which are clearly immoral to my mind, and I'm not sure how you square them away. And I understand that you don't have a Bible and everything, but being an advocate of the Bible, this is stuff that
You
causes
really
me to
shouldn't.
go,
You really shouldn't put me in a light like that, Mark. And I don't
what light?
appreciate it.
What light?
Don't summarize it like I don't have a Bible, and then do your little spout off. Or I'm not
I
gonna
said a
keep
Bible in
on.
front of you. I said a Bible. You said
Right.
you didn't have a
I'm just
Bible in front of you.
okay.
I
Thank
don't.
you. All right.
I said you don't have a Bible in front of you. I really feel for you for that. I understand that you can't just memorize the entire book and then draw it out, kind of thing. But sort of currently you're advocating for it, and I see some real conflicts here with what you've said and what the Bible actually states. And I'm really sorry, mate. I'm gonna point that out. I'm just going to.
Incidentally, I point this out myself, and I
And then
appreciate you pointing it out, Mark.
I said in the beginning, I don't
You're welcome.
mind
Thank you.
giving you an honest answer. I haven't studied this in depth like I ought to, but I'll give you my honest view, even though I'm in the dark and don't have my Bible open right now. I I gave it to you the best that I could. Is that it? I believe that it's prophetic in some way, and it's okay if you don't want to accept it. It's fine.
I think it's
I do want to.
important.
It's
No,
tough when
Go
uh,
ahead, Cheechon. I'm
I'm
sorry. I
gonna
didn't. I thought you were
well,
done. But
just
go
to
I
ahead.
that
want
small bit. Although I don't mind you pointing out what you claim that the Bible is saying on prophecy and things like that. You give your honest opinion, and I appreciate that. But I think that you need to appreciate that if I believe that is not correct, if I think that the facts illustrate a different position, I am going to say that. And I don't know why you get angry because I do.
I
I
got fr-
if it's
I,
okay, just let me jump in for just a second. I think it's important for uh, all of us, uh, and I think it's important particularly for atheists who want to engage in these sorts of debates to understand that some of us have in fact read the scriptures, the Christian scriptures, that maybe you've read the Upanishads, that maybe you've uh, uh, read widely in a number of religious traditions, and to the I don't presume to understand every jit and tittle of your theology, and I don't intend to denigrate your understanding of the theology you propound. But when you make reference to biblical verses that I have read, I expect you would respect that another human being who has read these same things you have to engage in honest discourse about what the text says. And if you don't understand what the text says, and I quote the text and ask for your opinion, it's not an attack. It's just simply reading, well, let's go through this. Okay?
I think that it's important, Richard, or like if I am being addressed, that I should get a chance to respond instead of the round robin atheist effect that
And
I
you could
can't
have
keep
by
up with.
now.
I've been trying to be. I wanted to get back to Bree, to answer your question when I had that possible interpretation where I think that they might be raptured, and you wanted me to clarify whether or not their bodies were. I don't think their bodies were. It was just something I got, an idea I got when I was reading about the Levites in the center of the encampment like a month
It
ago.
reminds me very much of
Yeah.
S.J. Thomason's argument about God relocating the babies to heaven is what it made me think of. So
From the
Noah's
flood.
flood. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. Yep. Yep.
Okay, Batman, who got to say nothing the whole show. Just a minute, Wesley. Just a minute, please. I'm sorry, just a minute, Wesley. I'm going to get to you. I'm just working my way down the chart here. Batman, who got to say nothing.
Well, thanks for having me as usual. Um, I think these, I guess you could call them Bible studies, are pretty important to understanding. At least go into a little bit more detail as to why you should hold your beliefs and the possible issues that might come from it, right? And I think our biases at the end of the day is going to always play a part, and I think this is where the convincing part comes in, right? Where you have to kind of demonstrate that whatever you're reading makes the most sense, right? And then you have to, kind of justify that, right? And why you have that position. So, regardless, whether I agree or disagree, for me, that's, I still think these conversations are really awesome to have.
I agree. Yep.
Wesley Curry, floor is yours,
Yes,
sir.
I highly recommend that every one of you brush your teeth every day.
I agree.
That's solid advice. All right.
Mhm. And floss.
I am down for
Floss
that.
too. That's important.
Is it okay if they floss? Is that all right?
I
Wesley?
suggest yes, that too.
And in
But
what
I speak
order?
as I speak as one who looks like a vampire Bugs Bunny, having only 3 teeth left in my top jaw.
Richard, I
happens
got
sometimes
a
with
quick
age.
question for you. That I thought maybe you know. What did they have them write? Like the sheep's blood on their doors? What symbol was it?
I think you know the answer to that.
I,
Top
I
center, bottom center, right and left at shoulder height would be a cross, essentially.
thank you.
Hillary's emails.
There's
I think that we went in a few different directions on this. I agree with Stephanie that it reads like an allegory. And so then, if it is an allegory, we can't really attack it as being historically accurate. That's all.
I just want to hammer this little point home. Richard believes that the sheep's blood on the doors that the Jews would put on there in order to protect their children from being smitten by God is a cross. Mark, would you, if this is true, would you consider that acting out prophecy?
Actually, it's not a cross. And I'll sort of the Passover.
It's not actually.
If
And
if
it's
it
it's
were,
actually in the
So if I
text.
could just
And
talk, if I could just talk for a second, because I just started. It's Exodus 12, 7. Then they shall take some of the blood and put it on the 2 doorposts and the lintel of the houses in which they eat it. Right. So you're talking about the 2 doorposts and the lintel, which kind of makes a, N shape, I guess. That's not a cross.
And Peter W., who was here first, and you have the floor to wrap it up. And then I'm going to give Dave a chance.
Okay. I think one thing we need to realize when we commune is that our worldviews are very different. And it might appear at times like we're gaslighting each other because we really do we see different realities. And I'd like to say that when the Christians read the Bible, I believe that the message that they are receiving and should take from it is to believe in Jesus Christ and to love God and love others. And I think the message is to take care of the poor, take care of widows. I don't think the message is to commit genocide or any of these things. And I got to say this, is Jesus is the light of the world, and he is the truth and the life. And without the light of the world, you can't see clearly.
may I? Jesus said, "You are the light of the world." You. Jesus said, "You are the light of the world." And that means to me, when Jesus speaks to me, he is saying to me, I am the light of the world. And you are too. And it's really important to focus on the fact that we all have lights to shine to the world.
Actually,
And
I
for
agree.
those of us
Wait a
for
minute.
those of us
Wait
who
a
are
minute.
blind, to others' lights, we need to open our eyes.
I agree with the general sentiment, Stephanie, but in John 8:12, again, Jesus spoke to them saying, I am the light of the world. Whoever follows me will not walk in darkness, but will have the
He
light
actually said
of life.
both. You're both right. He actually said both, and he said in Matthew, I think it's Matthew 5, you are the light of the world. So he actually said both. He said, I am the light of the world, and you are the light of the world. Yeah.
It does say both. And Dave, if you would, rocking a beard. Dave.
Hey, Dave.
You have to
You're on
unmute
mute,
yourself.
I got to
though,
unmute
Dave.
my mic. There we go.
Yes, that will help. Yeah, thank you.
So, no, I just showed up here because Wesley was here, and I see you were pretty much getting ready to wrap it up, right? And
Yes, sir.
I was wondering if Wesley could stop by and talk about the vision with the river and the sun and the trees and everything. Are you're still subscribed to my channel, right, Wes? I'll be over there. I'm live right now. I'm just kind of in the standby mode. So if you want to stop by, I'll be around. Sound good?
I heard you.
Take care of yourself, Wes. Yeah, I'm not sure that's entirely productive.
What happened? I didn't hear what you said, Mark.
I'm not sure that's entirely productive of Wes to go and talk about his vision and stuff. But
you mean that vision?
I'm not. It's the vision. I'm going to keep shut for about a year.
Well, I hope you take care, Wes. I hope you take care.
Thank you for that, Mark.
Jeez, I'm not hearing you
Okay,
guys real
guys.
good now all of a sudden.
Okay, guys, that's the end of this episode tonight. I want to thank all of you individually, and especially Bree for letting me have a cigarette, because that's one of those things I have to do. Dave, show up when you can stay longer, man. What's up with that? Yeah, come in earlier next time. Okay.
I've just been a little busy today, for a while.
Life happens. I'll have to live with
Yeah,
that.
no problem.
Thank you all very much. Do you guys have anything you want to shill? I want to give you guys a chance to shill your shows if you're doing anything.
Yeah.
Let me start at the top, work my way down here.
All right.
Peter, do you have anything? Yes, no?
No, but thank you all for the discussion.
Thank you. Stephanie?
You want to see a sermon on the light of the world? You can check out the one video I have on my channel. It was it was actually a message I delivered to a Methodist congregation on November 22nd or something this year. It's
all right.
Let's be kind to each other instead of disputing whether we're human enough.
Yeah. Amen to that, if you don't mind me saying so. Bree, you're muted.
I'm muted. Yeah. You're not the only one, Wesley. I started talking when I was muted too. Well, I got my show Saturday, Live from the Hive. Every Saturday morning, come check it out, and make sure you're subscribed. I'm actually getting really close to my 1,000 subscribers. So, if you're not subscribed, come subscribe to the channel. We talk about stuff like this sometimes. We talk about science. We talk about Bigfoot. I don't know. We talk about all kinds of fun stuff. If you're interested in that. I'm going to be on Skeptic Haven on Monday with like R and Raw is going to be there, and Dr. Josh and all kinds of cool people. So yeah, and we're going to see if we can't get my channel up to 1,000, hopefully.
Oh yeah, I'm going to be on Skeptic Haven on Sunday. I think
since Bree's so close, why don't you guys? I mean, if you hate the content, just take no notifications, but go over there and give a sub anyway. You know. Just help somebody out here.
Getting so close.
Help our sisters out. I'm at like 30 something or other. I don't know. Bree's like way got way more hive mind than I do.
I got 850 some is where I was last time I looked.
Yeah.
Bree's always doing content. Peace and respect, Cosmic Kyle. Okay, P-Town, you want to shill anything? You don't normally shill, but...
Yeah, I don't have a channel. I just want to shield the Lord. I want to encourage you guys to study the Bible and actually look for the patterns that it actually is pointing towards. That's what I encourage. Then you'll see Jesus.
If everyone became a believer, the prophecy would be wrong. Hillary's emails. It's true.
I don't have anything still.
I
I'm
know
just
it
glad
is.
to fellowship with you all. So thank you.
All right, thanks, Hillary. Batman, did you have anything last thoughts?
Yeah, actually, like, share, and subscribe to everyone on this panel who has a channel. They're all really chill people. Most of all, hail the hive mind.
Hail the hive mind. Mark, you got anything going
Hey,
on?
yeah, so I do a lot of debates. I do a lot of stuff like that. If you want to see some sort of skeptical and atheist analysis of stuff, I'm seem to have a very good ability to pick things apart and analyze them in a logical and rational way. So if you enjoy that kind of thing, I'm going to put my channel in the private chat. If someone could sort of transplant it, I'd be very
Wait,
very grateful.
why are you
Thank
not a mod? Write something in the public chat, Mark.
Am I a mod?
You should be by now.
Oh, I
You've
am
been
a
on here
mod.
more than
Wow,
I'm
I'm
gonna-
just
so.
I'm just
gonna-
farming out work at this point. That's
I'm
terrible. I'm
telling you,
sorry.
you're lazy. Just do your own work.
Yeah, right. Yeah, thank you so much for having me on, Richard, and thank you everybody for your time. I really want to thank everyone for the conversation and engaging on this topic. I really appreciate it. It's been fantastic. I've had a great time. So thank you. Yeah, and like this video because Richard absolutely deserves it. If you're not subscribed, do subscribe to Richard. He does some fantastic sort of discussions and things. I always enjoy visiting his channel, so please do drop a subscription if you haven't already.
I always enjoy you coming by. Okay, that's everybody. So thank you all so very much. I want you all to know in Alla Stephanie Helms, I look forward to the day that we're all great friends. Till next time.